Welcome, everybody. It's Michael Washington with Shady Sports Network. I have a very special interview today. I am interviewing Barcelona Dragons quarterback Conor Miller, who unfortunately right now is out with a minor injury, but hopefully will be back soon. How are you doing today, Conor?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being with me. I mean, I really appreciate you taking time out and obviously having a nice little interview here with me. We were just talking right before we were recording that your ankle injury, you're off crutches now. You're on a walking boot, so you're aiming for the week after the league bye week here.
Hopefully, I mean, I was telling everybody last week, oh, I'm going to be back for Paris this week. I'm going to be back for Paris this week, and it was more kind of trying to what's the word? Just put it in the air and make it so. And what's the word? Kind of like will it
Just,
to happen.
yeah, will it to happen? Yeah, throw it
Yeah.
out there,
So
put it in the universe, and hope it comes true, right?
right, but ultimately, it really wasn't realistic. I'm evidently I'm not Patrick Mahomes because I guess Patrick Mahomes played on a high ankle sprain in the
He
playoffs.
did.
So I kind of crushed that dream of I guess I'll
Oh,
never be Mahomes, but but I'll be it's making slow progress, and we have great physios here, physios and team doctors are taking care of me. So special shout out to Shira, the physio, and Doc Federico. Love you guys, and muchas gracias for all the work that you do with me and get me back ready to play.
much better Spanish than me. And also, if it makes you feel any better, I will never be Patrick Mahomes either. So, I mean, if that helps you make you feel any a little bit better,
Well,
either.
there's two of us.
So, actually, you alluded to Paris, and I was going to save this for a little bit later on, but I'm going to ask it now because I think the segue is perfect and it sets up wonderfully. I don't want to say replaced, but in a sense, replaced Zach Edwards from when you took the starting job in Barcelona when he moved on to Paris. And obviously, consensus wise, everybody, views Zach Edwards as one of the top premier quarterbacks, in Europe. How did you add any unnecessary pressure to yourself, or did you feel like there was any unnecessary pressure from either the organization or fans or any sort when you took the job over?
Well, it's funny because he replaced me too in Paris because I was with the Flash, my guys.
Oh, okay.
We won a championship with all pretty probably 60% of the Musketeers roster is Flash guys. So, like it's going to be kind of a homecoming of sorts for both of us next week. But to answer your question, no, I really didn't. Zach is in my opinion, Zach was the best player in the league last year. He should have won the MVP. And I just have so much respect for his game. He does so many things that, I can do on Madden, but that's about it. Just with his athleticism and the way he plays the game. And I have just so much respect for how he plays. And I think we are two examples of just how differently the position can be played. Just when you compare the two of our games. But I didn't feel any extra pressure, and that was kind of the main thing that Bart Yacarino, the general manager, and Coach Black, they told me is like, look, we don't want you to replace Zach Edwards. We want you to be Conor Miller. And I mean, you can't replace Zach Edwards and what he means to the Barcelona franchise because he was their first quarterback. He played the year before for the La Hospitalet Pioneers, which is a team right in Barcelona where a lot of the Dragons players came from, and then transitioned to the ELF of the Dragons. So just on and off the field, there's no replacing what he does, and same for Kyle Sweet, Triple Crown winner, and that's just something that I think has really helped us is saying like, hey, don't just be yourselves. Don't you have no control over who comes before you and who comes after you. Just be yourself.
Yeah, man, that's fair. I just figured I'd ask because I know that the nature of competition and you can be friendly with people and still want to outcompete them and stuff. I just didn't know if there was any extra additional pressure there for you or not by any means. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can't speak for Zach. I'm sure it's a very special week for him coming back to his home this week, and seeing all the people he went to war with for the first 2 years. Because I know how it is. Like for me, that's why something I was so excited about this game with Paris was like seeing all those guys who I went to battle
right.
with and won a championship with last year, and getting to go up against them and. It's in a setting outside of practice. So, I'm sure it's special for Zach, and they're going to come in here and compete really hard, and so are we.
Yeah, no doubt. And you know what? Maybe next year we'll get the Conor Miller versus Zach Edwards storyline, and if it does, I'll get you both on, and we can hype that up. Heading into next year for you
Wow,
two.
we have them one more time. We have them, I believe, the
Oh,
last game of the year. So yeah, we'll get
okay.
to go into Paris, and I mean, if I'm not back by then something went wrong. So,
All right, all right. So
yeah,
I'll spend the whole week hyping that up this year then, when you
yeah,
towards the end of the year when
yeah.
you get that going.
I know it's not as sexy when both teams are 2-5 and 2-6, as opposed to if it would have been flipped the records. But hey, it'll still be a great game, I'm sure.
Hey, record is one thing. It's a team game. That's where the record comes in. It's on an individual basis. So, I mean, it's still an individual storyline, and that's really, I mean, it's a little bit of a, I guess, fabricated storyline, but I mean, it's still a decent little storyline between you two. See you guys compete would be awesome for sure on the
Yeah.
field together.
A funny little story about it. So when I got hurt against Munich, the first person who texted me was actually Zach. Zach
Oh,
texted
nice.
me, sent me a message like, "Hey man, like I hate to see you go down. I hope it's nothing serious. Like if you need anything, you want to talk, just hit me up." So ton of respect, man. He's a great player and a great dude. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to looking forward to seeing him this week and hanging out a little bit.
So, based on your injury, I mean, we talked a little bit again before we came on air. What was the initial? What were you told initially on the field that you thought, or they thought was your injury?
So they told it was it was Raiders offensive coordinator Kyle Callahan who actually broke the news to me after the game. He's like Bart told me you broke your leg. I'm like, what? I broke my leg. I'm like, I don't think I broke my leg. I didn't feel a pop or anything. He's like, I don't know, man. That's what Bart told me. So I told him thanks KC for that scare. But yeah, the doctor did say to me that he needs to like they couldn't tell what it was at the time without an X-ray or an MRI, and he said it could be broken. So that it was in my head, but I'm like, there's no way. Like I it was like it was kind of freaky in that sense, but I don't know. I just like after the game, I was able to like put my foot on the ground, and my buddy Lataro Fresha, our safety, told me that when he broke his leg, it just felt like constantly like someone they had a knife in it, and I didn't feel that bad. Like it hurt. I couldn't walk, couldn't put any weight on it, but I had a feeling it wasn't broken. So it was nice to go the following day and get the X-ray and have that confirmed. And doc's like, all right, it's not broken, but it is a high ankle sprain,
Yeah.
and you're gonna miss some time.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't broken, and I'm glad there's a chance we're going to see you here in the near future. Now, I want to backtrack a little bit. In 2019, now that was really where you started your professional career. You started with the I pronounce it Cologne. I don't know if that's actually how it's pronounced, but the Cologne Crocodiles. Yeah, it is okay. Cologne, all right. The Cologne Crocodiles of the German Football League. I'm always interested in hearing the backstory or the story about how American imports or American players kind of come across these leagues and how you get to how you get to that point. Was it an agent? Did you just happen to make a connection somewhere and then it just led to that, or was it something else entirely?
So it is an interesting question. So for me, 2019 was when I was coming out of Florida Atlantic University and did my pro day, did a couple workouts. Obviously, didn't get drafted, and then it was so my options were try to go the CFL route because there was no XFL, USFL. Got it. I seem so old. It really wasn't that long ago. I
It's not
promise.
that long ago. It isn't. No.
There was no XFL, USFL, or I would have just done that. So my option was either try to go the CFL route, try to land in a training camp, or I found out through Europe, like American football in Europe, through a friend that I played junior college with, and he was over playing, I believe, the GFL two, and I hit him up. I'm like, yo, like, how'd you get over there? And I looked into it, and he kind of showed me the way. And I don't know how I found. But I sent a message. It's so funny how things come full circle. I sent a message to Jadrian Clark and Luke Saradka. I'm like,
Okay.
hey, like, how do you get started over in Europe? And both of those guys helped me out. So fast forward 4 years, we're on the ELF now. But yeah, so those two guys, they were like, make a page on Euro players, and so this would have been around, I believe, May of 2019, and I sent a message to I think all the coaches in the GFL won. And I was like, hey, this is my story. I'd love to come play there. And Coach Dave Odenthal with the Cologne Crocodiles got back to me and said, we might be interested in making a change. And would you like, when could you come over? And I believe they had a German quarterback at the time that they were looking to change out. So it ended up working out. I was able to go over there. Um, there was one week, I guess, so that it was like a Wednesday or so, and because at Europe we're 6 hours ahead,
Right.
so I was still in Florida though, and I get a call at like 6 a.m. on a Wednesday, and he's like, hey, when's your flight over here? And I'm like, I believe it's next Monday or so, coach. And he's like, can you come tomorrow? Our quarterback just quit, and I'm
Oh,
like, no. And he's like, yeah, we told our quarterback we were bringing in an American, and he said he wasn't going to play for us anymore. So we need a quarterback for this next game. I'm like, coach, I'm sorry, I can't come to Europe tomorrow. So that was kind of my experience there, and then that was my first time in Europe. So I get to Germany, it is a complete culture shock.
I'm
Like
sure.
that's what I was like. Now when I see new imports coming over here for the first time, it's like I know exactly what you're going through. But
Right.
you know, I made the decision. I was just gonna throw myself into it and see what the experience was like, see what it was, and it was definitely a culture shock, especially coming from a D1 program, FAU, where we're getting we're asked, hey, do you want a berry protein shake or a pineapple after practice, and come to treatment in the morning. We're flying. We have our own plane to coming over here, and it's like, hey, players, you guys got to help fill the water before practice. And it was I was a spoiled little American, and it was like I was like, wait, like why should I fill the water? It's like, yeah, it's because it's just what we do. We need someone to fill the water. Why not you? So just little things like that was just kind of a big culture shock coming over here. But
Mm,
and after I went back, I was like, man, like I was so 2020, I was planning on trying the CFL route and going to camp with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers,
yep.
and COVID hits, so no one's playing in 2020. So after that, I'm like, man, like I just want to get back to play. Like I don't even care where.
Right.
Yeah.
And you
So
went to the Austrian league, right? To
I
Graz.
I
Is it
did, yeah.
Graz?
So
Yeah.
my plan was it was kind of funky how it happened. My plan was actually to go back to Cologne, and I'd been in contact with Coach Odenthal, our offensive coordinator, the one who brought me over, kind of for a lot of 2020. And I was like, hey, coach, like I want to come back. He's like, okay, like we'll come back. And then obviously everybody's season gets canceled in 2020, except the Graz Giants and the Vienna Vikings in Austria. They were able to play like a little 3-game series. Like I think they were one of the only people to play during 2020.
Yep.
So early 2021, fast forward, I'm Gratz, the OC Brandon Gorsuch, who's now one of my really good friends, hits me up and he's like, hey man, like would you want to come play in Austria? I'm like, no, hell no, I don't want to go play in Austria. I'm going back to the GFL, baby. And he's like, all right, man, can we have a phone call? And I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm going back to the GFL. That's a total asshole. Oh, excuse me. But
No, you're fine, man. You're fine. We don't follow any FCC
yeah.
guidelines right now.
But yeah, I was a total shithead American about it. But
Yeah, no doubt.
so so then 20 so then a couple weeks later, he's like, hey man, can you just answer a question for me? He's like, can you guarantee that the GFL is going to be playing this year? And I was like, no, I
Uh,
can't. And he's like, just give me 5 minutes. So I'm like, all right, fine, give him 5 minutes. I hop on the call, and I think we got along really well. We had great chemistry right off the bat, and um, so we're talking. I'm like, all right, give me a couple days to think about it, and then I see AJ Wentland signs with the Raiders in Austria, and I knew Jadrian Clark had played for the Vikings in that little three game scrimmage. So I hit them both up. I'm like, yo, like Austria, like is it anything close to Germany? And they're like, oh yeah, man, it's great. Like Austria is amazing. And AJ was saying that because he was already in Tyrol at the time. He had already gotten there. he was
Yep.
saying like, dude, I'm shocked how good the Austrian talent is. Like the rate, like this team might be better than most of the German teams. And I was like, really? So Austria is legit? And they're like, yeah, bro, it's legit.
Wow.
So long story short, I end up taking that offer, and that was that was the most fun football season I've ever had. 2021 in Graz. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made.
So it was actually ended up being a really good decision for you then,
It
and
was so
whatnot, it
much
worked
fun.
out. And then you
Yeah,
mentioned obviously you were in Paris in 2022 with the Flash, and now you've made your way over to the ELF with Barcelona here as well. How was the Flash? You said you won a championship over there. How was that season in comparison?
that was one of the seasons I think I've grown the most, like as a person and as a quarterback in, just because that you want to talk about an environment that's like completely foreign. So
Mm.
I was 2020. So this was 2022 last year. On January 2nd, I was on the beach back home in Florida. January 3rd at night, I'm in La Courneuve in the suburbs of Paris. And I believe it was like 40 degrees, raining sideways,
Oh
windy. And
God,
I'm like,
that's
man, what on earth did I get myself into?
bad.
So you talk about culture shock in Germany. Everybody speaks English more or less. Like you can survive.
Right.
In France and especially in La Courneuve, probably the way it was described to me, 25% of people you can have a normal English conversation with. 50% you can get your point across and you can kind of understand each other more or less. The other 25% speak no English and do not want to. So that was like that. I could talk to about maybe half the people there. So I didn't know anybody. It was by
Mm.
myself. And as far as an offensive scheme, like kind of the things they asked me to do offensively, kind of the way they Coach Paul Duran, the offensive coordinator, the way he likes his quarterbacks to read concepts and read plays. He asked me to kind of go through a different method of doing so than I was used to. So that took a little bit of adjustment for me. Um, but yeah, I mean, we rolled through the French league, and then we went far in the CFL. We took Swabish Hall down to the wire, which was, that was honestly that was probably the most fun game of the year because some of the competition in the French league is not the best. Like we won a game 86-0,
Oh
but
yeah.
to get to go up against Swabish Hall, which was arguably the best team in Europe last year, them in Vienna, just compete against them. They made plays, we made plays, and kind of what killed us was it was 28-21. They were up with I believe like 2 minutes left, or maybe it was a little more. I don't remember exactly, but we drove all the way down the field, and then we got I rolled out, hit a receiver, and he makes a turn on like the 5 yard line, and he's going in to score. And Giuseppe Della Vecchia, he plays for the Surge now, comes
Yep.
in behind him and punches the
Oh
ball out,
no.
and then hops on it. It was a great play. It was such a good
Oh.
play. And I remember just falling to my knees like, no, 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 this is not how it's supposed to happen.
Oh
But
man.
so yeah, and then so one of my best friends who I played with in Graz actually was the running back for Swabish Hall. And the very next play, he broke like a 90-yarder, and I'm like, God, I've never been so disappointed to see him do well.
Right. Bittersweet. That's for us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a lot more bitter than sweet at that
Yeah, I'm
point,
sure it
but
was at that time. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've been down there myself. I mean, obviously not at the level of professional level, but I mean, I could feel that pain for sure.
oh yeah.
So yeah, I got to ask this question just because of the fact you've been to Germany, you've been in Austria, and I know that we wanted to talk a little bit about your career, but Paris and now Spain. But those
Mhm.
four countries, who has the best food? I got to ask.
Food.
Yeah, food. Who? I know. Take
Okay.
you a little bit off guard here. Who?
My Austrian girlfriend's standing right behind the camera, so if I don't say Austria,
Oh
I
yeah,
might run into some problems.
yeah.
But the Austrian home cooked meals are definitely the best. I'd say, man, I might have to stick with Austria. Like,
Austria. Okay.
it's so good. The food in Austria is incredible. Just the Zwiebelrostbraten, Käsespätzle, all of the traditional Austrian food is so good. I mean,
Yeah.
Spain is good too. Like, don't get it wrong, but yeah, to me, there's no
Okay.
competition. To be honest, Austria is awesome. Have you
I,
been?
I have not been to Austria. Definitely, it's on my
Oh,
bucket list as far as
dude,
places I want to go. But
you
yeah, for
have
sure.
to.
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to put your relationship there up against the wall. You know, by
No,
any
no,
means.
no.
Uh,
It's all good.
so the start of the year, Connor. I mean, you were crazy. It was crazy for you because, or for Barcelona, because a lot of the things that I was because so for me, I'm going to be honest. For me, I'm an American learning the game of the ELF, the European. I'm learning about all the leagues over there this year. It's my first year diving in, and everything I read that Barcelona was kind of like in a little bit of like a rebuild transition phase. And you guys came out and actually played really well off the jump, and you were the only quarterback heading into week 3, I believe, that had not been sacked at the
Hmm.
point in time. Your offensive line was playing really well. Um, you know, how has it been in this transition phase for not just you but for the team as a whole, or at least that's everything I've been reading. I don't know how much of it is actually a transition, overall, but because obviously with the ELF expanding to six teams this off season, it kind of opened up more opportunities for people across the board. But how's it been for the team over there? How's as far as the atmosphere and stuff is concerned?
So what the guys have told me is that like it's essentially a whole new team. They
Oh wow,
they
okay.
had I don't know the exact number, but they had an incredible amount of turnover from last year. It might have been close to 50% or so.
Oh wow.
But yeah, so it was a whole new team, and I think coming out, not many people really expected much from us, just because of the names like Zach Edwards, Kyle Sweet, Alejandro Fernandez, Celestine, Edu Gonzalez, all the guys that were lost off the team last, Yago Rivero, guys who were lost
Mm.
off the team last year and who were great, who are great players. A lot of people were like, man, like how can the Dragons reload from that? And Bart Yacarino, our GM, does a great job of just creating new ways to find talent here in Spain and throughout Catalonia, and just kind of like, for example, the in season combine tryout we had after the Munich game was something I'd never seen before. To do something like that in season, and we were able to find 2 or 3 quality players who are contributing already from that just less than a month ago. So I think Bart, our GM, does a really good job of finding talent in unconventional ways and unconventional places. You take someone like our starting defensive end, Mamadou, number 92. He's had a few sacks on the season already. He was playing in the Catalan League last year, and just a freak athlete. Throughout training camp, he was in the backfield the whole time, and I'm like, who is this guy? Like, I never heard of this guy. And Bart's like, I'm telling you, diamond in the rough. And so just kind of being able to reload that way. Um, as you mentioned, coming out the first two weeks of the season, I think a lot of people didn't know what to expect from us.
Yeah.
Didn't know how we were going to be offensively, and as the season's gone on, I think obviously when you have the number one passing offense in the ELF in terms of yards per game, teams are going to start to adjust to it. They're going to start to drop 8 guys out, and they're going to make you run the ball. And it's a really good league, and I think we haven't capitalized on a lot of opportunities of doing that yet. And I think it opened up a little bit this week with Carlton Aiken, the new quarterback, and his
Yeah.
ability to use his legs. And I think that was a dynamic that really helps us offensively. So and then on top of that, you look back to the Guards game, you look back to the Raiders game, and in both of those games, I can point to 5 plays immediately where we make one play, we probably win the game. Because I mean, the Raiders game, yes, it finished 17-3, I believe. It was 10-3 or maybe 7. It was a one possession game through the entire game, and so you know you point to those games. The Guards, we lose in double overtime. So we make one play differently for those 2 games. We're sitting at 4-2 instead of 2-4 going into Stuttgart, and it's a whole different season. But like I said, this league is really, really good, and
Mm.
if you don't capitalize on opportunities, these teams are going to make you pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to say that as far as like all the games I've watched with you guys have been competitive in you know damn near every game. It's just been like you said, a few things here and there, and I actually thought you were going to beat the Raiders there in that game, even though it was a defensive struggle. For the most part, I thought you guys might have actually got the upper hand because I thought you looked better on the offensive side of the ball than they did in that game, but. Obviously it's just the breaks of football and the way it works. Special teams play here, a defensive fumble there, or a defensive play here that you just miss something and everything changes. So, but I mean, I thought Carlton Aiken played pretty well this year. It's tough coming in as a transitional quarterback and having a short, any type of short period of time with a team to try to come in and get a win. But hopefully you guys can put it together for against Stuttgart here coming up this week.
Paris, yeah.
Oh, Paris. Sorry, that's right. Sorry, Paris is what I meant. Yeah. I don't know why you said Stuttgart in your thing, and it just stuck in my head. I knew you were playing Paris, though.
Yeah, so. I mean, I think it'll be, like I said, they're a team who's a similar record to us. I believe they're 2-6. We're 2-5. We played one fewer game, but they're going to be hungry, man. They're going to be hungry, but so will we. So I'm really excited. I think. Just speaking to Carlton, he had a great week of practice last week. Just to watch him come in, learn the system. The game plan was a little simpler, but it wasn't a very dumbed down game plan. There were not many baby steps. He really a lot of credit deserved to him because he came in and studied the playbook hard, had a great week of practice, and then was able to pick it up towards the end of the fourth quarter and, kind of get the offense moving. So hopefully we can carry that momentum into next game against Paris.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I don't have anything else as far as any other questions to ask you. I asked everything I wanted to ask, and I got more from it actually than I was expecting as far as having the conversation with you. Before we do go off, or before I end the interview here, is there anybody you want to shout out, or anybody you want to give a special recognition to before we head off here?
Let me ask you something.
Okay, by all means.
What's going on with all these quarterbacks going down, man? It feels like 2/3 of the league has had to replace their quarterback at some point already.
So right now, from what from my perspective, as far as a fan is concerned and seeing things, man, it's just, and it's not just the ELF. From what I'm seeing, the CFL is having the same issue right now. There's a ton of quarterback replacements going on up there. I don't know. I don't know if it's just the game style has made quarterbacks comfortable to try to do more than they probably necessarily need to, or I'm not sure. I don't know if there's being more asked of them, and it's just kind of like getting to a point where it's like, they're competitors, man. Quarterbacks are always competitors. I mean, you're a quarterback. Every quarterback that I played center, so I've always had good relationships with my quarterbacks. Like, they've always been super competitive and wanted to put the team on their shoulders and make sure they do whatever. It's crazy. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if obviously there's other factors involved with team dynamics and everything else that I'm not privy to, obviously, but I don't know, man. It's crazy. But I think there's an influx of talent. I think if there's anything that the quarterback position has, is I think that there's a lot of talent. I think it's a lot of guys such as yourself and, like Jadrian Clark over in with Ryan and whatnot. I think you guys are all really competitive, talented quarterbacks. And it's just, unfortunately, you have two spots. Especially in the ELF, and a lot of teams don't carry three even over here, even though they started changing the rules a little bit for an emergency 3 quarterback. So I just think that it's just stay on your grind and eventually, not at the expense of somebody, but hopefully you'll get a shot somewhere down the road and be able to stick, I guess,
Yeah. It's just, it feels like it's a case by case basis. Like everything's different, but I mean, it just seems like every week there's 2 or 3 quarterbacks going down. Like this week with obviously what happened in Tyrol, we're not, maybe we don't know everything that went on there, but even Preston Hare, who I thought was playing really well in Hamburg, now seeing that he's going to be out, I saw from around the ELF on Twitter reported that, and, someone who was playing well, Jacob Sullivan missed some time. And, like I said, it's a case by case basis. So each one's going to be different, but it's just, it's tough to see these guys go down, man. And
for sure.
I know what they're going through. So.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, the T-roll situation, I think surprised everybody. I think it shocked a lot of people. When you're a team at 6-2 like that, and obviously there's some kind of dynamic that happened there, or maybe T-roll just felt that it was time for a change for whatever reason. And Preston Hare, I believe, is hurt. I think he played hurt for most of the year. So, or was dinged up, I should say, banged up of some capacity. It's just, I don't know, man. It's unfortunate. I hate seeing it for players, especially because if I had it my way, everybody would be employed. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and I know
Exactly.
that, and I know that that's not and I know that's not necessarily a feasible, you know, thing to
Yeah.
happen, but I
Right.
just, the rules of the game is, the ELF has a little bit different, rules, especially when it comes to imports, exports, and
Yeah.
the way that they do that, and so anything can change along those. And you guys are in your infancy. A lot of people are, concerned. Like a lot of people are worried with the ELF. As far as like the instability because of what happened with Leipzig and what's gone on with Prague, but I think a lot of people tend to forget that when the NFL first started, they had over 40 franchises come and go within the first 15 years. And it wasn't really until year 20 that they really got any kind of stability. So
Yeah.
like it's football, man. I mean, it's not a cheap, it's not cheap by any means. And as far as the ELF is concerned, I think from my perspective, I think it's just going to be a matter of just sticking with it. You guys are in your infancy; it's 3 years in there. Eventually, it will level itself out, and I think we're going to have even better football. 3 years from now, if you and I are still talking, Connor, and we have another conversation, I'm sure 3 years from now it's going to be even better football. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I agree. I
that's just where
agree.
I am as a fan, of the
Yeah.
sport. So
I mean, yeah, because I'm a player, but I'm a fan too. Like I love football, and to me, like I feel like this league is perfect for me. I love being over here in Europe, and I think Commissioner Zume has done a great job with how they've marketed the league, and
mm,
getting over 30,000 fans to a game with Hamburg is freaking awesome.
that's
So
amazing.
you know, yeah, so just kind of keeping that positive momentum going. I know there will be ups and downs, but at the same time, I know a lot of people have said that this is the best thing to happen to football in Europe since NFL Europe and the World League. So, hopefully we can just keep sticking to it, keep pounding, and I really hope this is something that lasts because it's been great for even the homegrown players to be able to devote more of their time to the game they love, and I think they deserve that. And for me, like I said, I'm fan number one of the ELF.
Right? Yeah, yeah. And one of the other things is real quick here is the thing with the league is that's been so awesome too is a lot of the teams have set up communities to bring American football to youth as well,
Mm-hmm.
to get the youths involved in the areas, which is something that's always awesome because it gives another outlet for these kids that may not be able to make it in another sport. So like they're like my body and build, there's no way in hell I would have made it as a soccer player. Like
Yeah, right.
you know what I'm saying? Like there was no
Me
way in
neither. I'm
hell
like
I would have been.
yourself.
Yeah, yeah, that same here. So that worked out that way. But
Yeah.
Connor, I appreciate your time, man. I appreciate you coming on and talking football with me. I love it. As a fan and as somebody who's trying to bring awareness of the ELF and European football in general, whether it be the GFL or whatever as well, to American eyes and whatnot. So I appreciate it. Are you sure you don't have any individual shout outs
Nah,
at
man.
all?
Just
Okay.
I just want to say thank you for having me, man. This was a lot of fun. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you coming on, and I had a ton of fun. And from Shady Sports Network and myself, thanks again, Connor, for joining me.
Thank you, guys. Go Dragons.
I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer.